But for now, I just want to thank Maddie's for supporting the Million Cat Challenge and allowing us all to be here. And thank you all for taking time out of your busy day to join this webinar and be part of the Million Cat Challenge. And Barbara Carr for sharing her expertise with us today. I have this lovely bio of her. She's the director of the SPCA Serving Erie County and has been doing that for 20 years. Wow, and she's done a lot there. She's been responsible for bringing surgery in-house, creating the SPCA's mobile adoption unit, developing the SPCA's off-site adoption program, developing the wildlife and humane education departments, implementing a foster care program for young and sick animals, and renovating the dog kennels. She served as an advisor to the Humane Society of the United States Companion Animal Division, and in 2007 was appointed to a 3-year term on the National Federation of Humane Society's first ever board of directors as president. All very glorious. The way that I actually know Barbara, and I hope that she would say the same thing about me, is I think of her and I think of, like, she's crazy. And I don't know how many times I've heard of something that Barbara was doing over there at SPCA Serving Erie County, and I've thought, well, that is never going to work. I can't believe she's taking that approach. And I happen to know that at least one of the things she's going to be talking about today was an idea that I shared with her, and I suspect her first thought was, that is never going to work. And I know that, as we talk about implementing the different initiatives, the Million Cat Challenge, one of the things that comes up, of course, as it has to, is how are we going to find the resources to make it happen? And I think you said to me, you know what? It actually can be a break-even prospect or can make financial sense to have programs that take less work and save more lives. I might have said, you know what, that's crazy. There's no way that's going to work. And so here is Barbara to tell us how it actually does work. Before we launch into that, I'll just ask our Chief Million Cat Wrangler, Mandy Newkirk, to share a few housekeeping rules about the webinar.
So just wanted to invite everybody. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions that come up as Barbara's presenting. Please feel free to shoot those in the chat box, and we'll queue up the questions for the Q&A session after Barbara's presentation. And if anybody's having any trouble with their audio, please give me a message in the chat box, and I'll walk you through it over here on the side while we get started. And with no further ado, Barbara.
Well, I'm so happy to be here, and I got to thank you guys so much for all you're doing for cats. You're an inspiration every day, and just thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're going to be talking about, and I'm thrilled to be talking about saving and making money using the 5 key initiatives of the Million Cat Challenge. All right, so, first of all, talking about our donor dollars, I think they're really important. We have to respect our donor dollars and do the best we ever can with them. So if you have an alternative to intake a cat, wouldn't you save that precious resource of taking the cat in? By managing admissions and therefore the cat population of your shelter at any given time, wouldn't you save money on just about everything? If your capacity for care is aligned, wouldn't fewer cats get ill? And wouldn't that save your staff and time money and your shelter money? If you remove some unnecessary barriers to adoption, wouldn't you have time to do more adoptions and collect more adoption fees? If community cats were sterilized, vaccinated, and returned to the field where they came from, wouldn't that cost less than doing all this, plus holding and caring for the cat until the adoption can occur? Well, of course, the answers are yes, 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 and yes. Slide. So you know what the 5 key initiatives are: managed admission, capacity for care, alternatives to intake, removing barriers to adoption, and returning to field. Slide. Managed admissions really allows you to control the population in your shelter, which then allows you to control disease. It allows you to control adoptions. It allows you to control length of stay, upper respiratory, unnecessary euthanasia, and much more. Slide. So we've been managing admissions for a number of years now, and in the very first year that we managed admissions, 8% of our waiters chose to keep their cats. That amounted in that year to over 70 cats not being admitted at all. In that time, our average length of stay was 38 days. So at $10 per day times 70 cats, our initial savings would have been $26,600. In 2014, just last year, 301 families on our waiting list chose to keep their cats. So that made a huge difference for us. Last year, 301 animals did not come in because we had all the initiatives going at once. By not overcrowding disease in the shelter, especially upper respiratory infection, has been significantly reduced, saving money on veterinary care, medicine, staff time to care for sick animals. And, of course, this also saved money and time. And, it doesn't take a genius to know that healthier, happier cats are adopted quicker. And it also reduces the length of stay. Animal Care Day costs, when you start adding up what it costs you to, I'm getting some feedback, I'm sorry. What you're saving in cleaning costs, staff costs, overhead costs, food costs, laundry costs, enrichment costs, website maintenance costs. When you add all that up, it can add up to at least $10 per day. So I think that's the figure that I use for an animal care day is $10 per day. And, some animals are cheaper and some are more expensive, but on average I believe it to be about $10 a day when you add all that up. Fine. So some of the things that I've discovered in the last year about money that I never even thought about are surrender fees. Now, at our shelter, we don't have a set fee. We do ask a set amount, but, we either get it or we don't get it. We'll take whatever we can get. But we found that the average dollar amount given by a person who's been on the waiting list, and they may have been on that waiting list a week, 4 weeks, 3 months, it doesn't seem to matter. But the average amount given by a person who has to wait is $35. Very interestingly, the average dollar amount given by someone who just shows up with a cat and, insists that we take it, we really have no alternative, we have no plan to take that cat, we have to kind of break all our rules, and we get $5. That's the average amount. So right off the bat, that tells me two things. Financially, it's a better idea to make people wait, and I really think the reason we're getting the more money is people really appreciate what we're doing, how we're saving cats, and how we're not euthanizing cats, and we're making them our partner in the whole process. So that adoption, or that surrender fee is 7 times higher on average than if we had no waiting list at all. Slide. So let's talk a little bit about capacity. So the simple definition is having enough space, time, and resources to care for the animals in your shelter. And one of the things we did in our shelter was virtually cut our capacity in half by portholing all our stainless steel caging, making 2 cages into 1. This certainly enabled us to take better care of the cats and provide the cats with much more room, and it saved us a great deal of time in terms of cleaning and all other kinds of things that go into the care of cats when they're in a shelter situation. Slide. So this picture shows you how our portals look, and you can see that in the cage on the right-hand side, that's where the litter box is, or we call the powder room, okay? And the cats don't necessarily go over there except for to use the bathroom, and then they live in the other side where they seem to have a whole lot more space, not having to share that small cage with a litter pan. And I'm sure you're probably almost all of you doing this already, but if you are not, from the moment we had this done, all I could think of is why didn't we do this before? This was one of the smartest things we ever did. Slide. So we transitioned to double cat cages, portals, April 1st, 2014. So the next quarter, our length of stay for adult cats adopted was down 4.8 days, third quarter down 4.7 days, and the fourth quarter down 9.5 days. So you can see the difference, the dark green showing 2013 length of stay for adult cats adopted, and the lighter green would be 2014. So this is pretty significant and consistent that, in fact, just by giving cats more room, they sold themselves faster, they got sick less often, and obviously those two things will add up to a decreased length of stay. Slide. So overall, animal care days have been reduced in that time by 30%. Again, looking at the dark green of 2013 versus the lighter green of 2014. So the earlier slide was length of stay, and this slide is actual animal care days, 1 day per cat per stay. Go ahead. Slide. So adoptions also went up in this time. So managed intake was our first program, and then capacity was cut in half, but yet adoptions as the percentage of intake actually rose 3% over these years. Slide. Our URI cases were down by 100 from 2013 to 2014. That's a significant amount of animals not getting ill in our whole scheme of things here at the SPCA. So by physically cutting our capacity, we actually reduced disease, animal care days, and at the same time improved adoptions, thus obviously saving us time. And as we all know, time is money. But time can also equal improved care in terms of enrichment, time spent with individual animals, and the quality of life for the animals and the people in our shelter. And the people are just as important as the animals. You don't want to lose your good staff after you've trained them and all that. And if you can give them a situation where they can just look at the animals and know they're more comfortable, believe me, that really improves the workplace. Slide. Alternatives to intake. So a huge percentage of people faced with giving up their pet just need a little bit of help. So here is our 2014 waiting list. You can see there were 1,966 cats who were on the waiting list for some period of time. And 168 people kept them without us spaying and neutering them. An additional 317 people, just by us neutering their animal, kept their animals. So that's a lot of animals. That's, I think, about 20% of all the cats on the waiting list, with just a little help from the SPCA. 20% kept their cat. So spay neuter. You're going to have to spay or neuter that cat when it comes to your shelter anyhow, if you admit it. So that's a cost you're going to incur regardless. And but what you don't incur is them staying at the shelter those 18 days, the length of stay, or 36 or 48 or whatever your length of stay is. They're not going to get sick. And so overall, it's a real victory to just be able to help people with the sterilization and send that kitty home. So some things that you can offer that we've offered: vaccines. The cost of the shelter is probably under $15. Taking that same cat in and rehoming it would cost you hundreds. Sterilization we've already talked about a little bit. List of alternative shelters. There's no cost whatsoever for you to tell folks where else they might get some help. Behavioral help, that you obviously are going to incur your staff time costs. Food or access to pet food pantries. Depending on your donated food supplies, this could be a very inexpensive alternative to taking a cat in. Okay. So this was just amazing to me when we found this out this year. As I said earlier, 317 people kept their cats when we offered to sterilize them. That doesn't mean that we didn't ask for a donation. and the average donation that we got from folks, those 317 folks, when we sterilized their cats was $62.14. Now, we do a number of cat adoption specials. We don't have any adoption fee for cats over 3. We run half-price things. We run free cat things. We do all kinds of things. So on average, when you look at all the cats we adopt out, we are getting an adoption fee of $40 on average. That's $22 less, $22.14 less than those cats that we sterilized and gave back. And with an average length of stay, our length of stay is now down to 17 days, which I think is great. But there's still a cost to that 17 days. Clearly, sterilizing and returning from the waiting list is the way to go if you can identify those folks who just need that little bit of help of sterilizing the cat who's on the waiting list. Slide. Return to field. So the costs associated with my admitting stray cats to my shelter, I'm going to look at 2012 because we've changed things quite a little bit, and this is when we were just taking in strays as they showed up. We admitted 3,042 stray cats, and the care days were associated with, I'm getting that feedback again. Care days associated with that population of 3,042 stray cats was 97,484 days times $10 a day. That's almost $1 million. If we were returning to field community cats, that same 3,042 days times a 1-day hold, or $10, would be $30,420. Huge difference. Sterilizing and vaccinating all of them, imagine they're all unneutered, at $80 to sterilize and vaccinate, which is what our low-cost clinic here in Buffalo charges, so that's why I use that particular figure. $243,960, and the cost to return the cat to the field, I'm just guessing it's like $5 for gas and the time that it takes. Times the 3,042 cats is another $15,210. So if I admit the cats, I hold them and I adopt them out, it's almost $1 million. If I bring them in, those same stray cats, we don't even use the word stray, we just call them community cats. If I had to take all those animals, sterilize them, vaccinate them, and return them to where they came from, the total cost of that would be $289,590. And we know lots of those kitties have a home anyhow. So it obviously a huge savings. So it's actual savings, $684,894. That's some nice money. So what are the benefits of that? Cats who do have homes might go home. Cats who are on the street will be sterilized, vaccinated, making their lives easier and longer. Fewer cats, fewer cat complaints, more room for cats in your shelter, more funds to care for shelter cats and other cats, saves those hard-to-acquire donor dollars, reduces incidence of URI, and it saves lives. It reduces the euthanasia of cats immediately. Slide. So barriers to adoption. And again, I don't think I'm probably talking to a group of people who throw up a lot of barriers, but let's look at the next slide. So calling landlords, having a waiting period, holds on adoptions for holidays, no birthday adoptions, home checks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm amazed when I hear that anybody's still doing any of this stuff. And they are huge barriers to cats getting homes, and they're to me, a real huge causal factor of euthanasia in an animal shelter when we're doing these things. So you're wasting your resources when you're throwing up all these barriers. They take time. They waste money. There's no data whatsoever that these secure adoptions. And you can always utilize any of these things if you get an uneasy feeling or there's some reason to believe that people are misrepresenting themselves. And if you're doing one landlord check on somebody who looks a little like they might be telling you an untruth, rather than 50 or 60 or 100 during the week, just think of the time you're changing, you're saving. And, you know, when you stop doing this kind of stuff, you learn to love your public. And, frankly, we can't do this work without the public. And if you make them your partner, you're going to serve cats so much better. So what we're doing for cats currently in animal welfare is certainly better than it was a decade ago, but it's still not enough. And nationally, looking at 2,200 organizations, 30% of all cats admitted to shelters are still euthanized. And nationally, 3% of cats entering the shelters die in the shelter, presumably most often by disease contracted in the shelter. By the way, the reason we started down this path was we were overcrowded, and we got Pan-Luke in the shelter. I had 75 cats in one rather large room, but 75 cats nonetheless. And I believe it was 39 of those cats died when we got Pan-Luke in that room. And I realized that moment that my thinking was just wrong-headed, and what we were doing just wasn't serving cats at all. And I think if you have a high death rate in your shelter, there's probably a lot you can get done just by using some of these initiatives that are so well outlined in the Million Cat Challenge. We owe it to cats to examine our beliefs as well as our programs and learn how we might improve all the programs that really will move us forward with kitties. So I've been talking a little bit about saving money here and what these costs are and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, does that mean that we have more money in the bank? In some ways, yes, but more often it's money that I can reuse in a different place. But here's some real figures. Our veterinary drug costs in 2013 were $75,000, and in our last fiscal year, $59,000. So that's a $16,000 difference in drug costs, and I know that that's exactly from not treating so much upper respiratory disease, not frantically trying to take care of other diseases that we are causing in the shelter through overcrowding. We took some of the money that we've saved with cats, with the cat programs, and we added 3 full-time staff members to our wildlife department. And up until this point, I'd never really had a fully staffed wildlife department. So thank you, kitties, for allowing us to really pump up our wildlife department. We reduced death in our shelter by 70%. 70%. That's incredible. We started free parvo clinics in high-risk communities in our community, and we reduced the incidence of parvo cases entering our shelter from 60 cases per year to 5 last year. That obviously saves us a ton of money and a ton of heartache. Our staff is able to spend more time and does more observation with each individual animal. We gave annual raises to everyone every year during the time period that we started these from 2009 until now. And our budget increase is held at 2.38%, even with giving at least cost of living increases every year. And we have a happier, healthier staff, happier, healthier animals, and all the creatures here, human and not, are certainly more relaxed. Slide. Oh, so I guess that's it, and I am open for all the questions.
Thank you, Barbara. It's a good thing we were on mute because we were over here at UC Davis Million Cat Syndrome. We were standing up and cheering on that last slide. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And one of the things I love about you is just the leaps of faith that you are willing to take when it's not clear exactly how this is all going to work out, and then the ways that you've discovered that it's worked out better than you expected and not exactly how you anticipated in terms of people keeping their pets and where you've been able to save and reinvest in your shelter and in your community.
Well, Kate, it's very clear that what we're doing for cats right now isn't enough, so we all have to take leaps of faith and try new things because we aren't there yet. We're not there any place, and so I encourage anybody to try something different. If what you're doing isn't working, try something different. How much worse could it be?
So, Barbara, one of the first questions we have is, what was the cost to put a portal in? How many cages did you start with, and what was the total installation cost for those cages?
Boy, I wish I actually knew the answer to that. We did it in-house. We rented the thing that cuts, and then the only cost was staff time and the PVC piping. So we are continuing to do it, and we are in the process of moving into a new shelter, and any new cages that we buy are going to be, by the way, I've looked at every single cat cage and every single cat cage manufacturer in the country, and I can't find anything better than a 2x2x2 cage and a 2x2x2 cage with a portal between it. I cannot find anything better. There are cages with portals in a separate bathroom, but those cages, the cats can't even stand up in their bathroom. They need a little room. So I'm sorry I don't know the exact cost of that. But Kate, maybe you know the cost of portalizing a cage.
Actually, we have Dr. Wagner standing by here as our portal expert, so I'm going to pass that one off to her.
Barbara, you guys made your portals, is that correct?
Yes.
You guys made them. We have them. We've gotten portals manufactured, and they're available through UC Davis, through the bookstore here on campus for $50 a piece. When we make the portals out of PVC pipe like you guys did, it usually costs about $10 to $12 for the materials, but it takes a couple hours to make them. So I applaud your efforts in getting those made and getting those put in. And then the install, if you have someone coming in to install them into your facility, it's just going to be an hourly cost. In general, to install the new portals that are manufactured is about 15 minutes per portal. So it really just depends on your labor costs locally, and then just the $50 portal if you buy them. So.
And you're certainly, so $65 plus labor is basically the cost to do this.
Yeah.
Is what I'm hearing you say. And my goodness, you're going to certainly make that money up in no time.
Yeah, knowing that new housing costs about $1,000 per unit, you can use your existing housing, put portals in it, and have some very good housing for your cats.
Right.
So, Barbara, the next question is, were there any areas that you needed to increase staff or staff time to implement managed intake specifically?
I do have one person, I believe she spends about 18 hours a week on our list, keeping in touch with people, keeping all the appointments straight, all the kind of various things that go along with managing the list. We've gotten better and better and better at this over the years and learned just ways to move that list faster. And you might. One of the things that we do now is that we know, for instance, unfortunately, that declawed cats are going to move a lot faster than any other cat. So if there's a declawed cat on the list, we're going to be able to get that cat in and out of here sooner than we're going to be able to get an 8-year-old cat who's black through the system. So we we will spend some time managing just how we bring the cats in as well. But it's about 18 hours a week to handle the about 2,000 cats that are on the list.
Okay, before we move on to the next question, I just want to remind everybody, if you have any questions that aren't being addressed, please go ahead and ask them in the chat box, and we'll queue you up.
Hopefully everybody's able to access the box. If you can't, type it into the chat box and let us know. Unmute yourself and cry out. The next question is, you have a stray hold, and how does this affect your return to field length of stay?
We do have a stray hold in New York State. It's 5 days. We're legislatively addressing that because obviously it's ridiculous. So basically, we're asking people in the community to hold on to the stray cats for the 5 days and put up a sign, so then we can then sterilize them and give them back to the people, and then it's up to them. But once we get community cats identified in the law as not a stray cat, what we're trying to do is change the definition to add community cats, and the only cat that would be called a stray that would be required to be held is a cat with some form of identification, a collar, a tattoo, a microchip, something that identifies it as owned. And all other cats would go into the community cat category, and then we could really start cooking. So other places in the country are doing a much better job of return to field than we are here in Erie County, just because they don't have these kind of laws that are requiring them to hold 5 days. I hope that answered the question.
Great, and all of you out there in Chatland, if you have follow-up questions, feel free to also type those into the chat. Sounds to me like it answered it. Our next question is, wow, $60 donation per spay. That seems like a lot. How does that compare to what people would pay at a clinic in your area?
Well, our clinic charges $80. So I think it's pretty remarkable. I mean, we don't have a fee. We just ask them to donate whatever they can. And, and we might say to them, our adoption fee is $100, and we've done everything to this cat that we do to any cat we adopt out. Can you help us in any way? And we were just delighted to find that figure of $62.14 average.
That's great.
So again, it's always this, why are we surprised that the public cares as much as we do about their own pet? I don't know why that surprises us, but it continually does.
Well, this is actually a question from me, and all of you out there in Chatterland. Feel free to continue typing in your questions or sending them to us at info@millioncatchallenge.org. But in the meantime, one of the questions we get a lot was, how did you get to the number of cats in the building to let you cut those holes between your cages? Because obviously one day all those cages were full, and then holes somehow.
Well, they actually weren't. We managed the population prior to cutting the holes. So we knew what we were going to end up with on week 1, on week 3, on week 5. And then we would manage our cat population intake based on what we knew we were going to have the following week. So it just took a little bit of planning, but I don't remember it as being horrible or anything. So it was just, okay, we're going to start cutting the portals, and we will have 10 cages turned into 5 by the end of this week. So we have to, the 5 cats that we originally thought we were going to bring in this week from the waiting list, they're going to have to wait. But then the length of stay went down dramatically. I mean, we started with like 38 days before managed admissions. And through managed admissions, I think we got down to like 24, 22 days. So it was a huge surprise to fall down to 17 days with the portals. I didn't really anticipate that. So that really, made up for it.
Okay, we got another question. Barbara, how would you approach return to field in a municipality that has a leash law that makes TNR and free-roaming cats illegal?
Oh, my God. I don't know. I guess I'd try to change the laws. I mean, I don't see how you can make, I don't know what community that is, but there really are communities. What do? Pick up these cats that are free roaming? I mean, that's impossible to chase cats around. So I guess I would try very hard to talk to my municipality about the benefits of free roaming cats to the community and the cost savings of using a program like Return to Field over round up and kill, which doesn't work. We all know that. And so I would just keep hammering at the municipalities about what are you doing, why are you doing it, let me show you a better way, and try to change those laws first, like we are trying to do here with the 5-day hold.
And I'll just add, this is Kate, that is a question that you're not, as crazy as that may sound, if you're in a community that doesn't have that law or that policy in place, that's actually not an uncommon thing that shelters are struggling with. Is for one reason or another, the law is interpreted that TNR or return to field is illegal, it's considered abandonment, or it's a violation of the leash law, or those cats need to be licensed, or they have to be part of a registered colony. So a great place to take that question is the Million Cat Discussion Group. Again, if you're not part of that and you want to be, we really encourage you to join. Just email us at info@millioncatchallenge.org. And if you're shy about even putting that out there to the discussion group, also that's some information where we can put you directly in touch with other challenger shelters that have worked through their legal issues. And so if we learn a little bit more about the specific situation that you're in and the law you're trying to change, we can connect you just with the right resources for that.
Perfect. Okay, we have another question.
Kate, okay.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I have a question, too, if people could put it in their chat box or whatever, what ways they're finding that they're saving money that, that we might be able to use here or making money through the initiatives. So if anybody else is doing something else, I'd love to hear about that.
Me too.
Me too. Okay, next question. Did your regular shelter medical staff incorporate spay and neuter for public and return to field cats into their usual work schedules? And if so, did that add staff time, or was the decrease in intake enough to account for those procedures?
That's an excellent question. I would say from time to time we have had to add some surgeries, night surgeries, but I don't know that they really have anything to do with the 317 cats that were on the waiting list. Those cats would have come in anyhow. And so we're actually doing fewer neuters than we did a year ago. So I don't know if that means that more cats are coming in sterilized, or our intake is reduced by those numbers. But no, we haven't. I think we've, for the most part, incorporated doing the surgeries for the public right into our day-to-day operation. But I don't know that that would be the same anyplace else. It just has been here.
Okay, we have a question about adoption fees, and this is from someone who says, our board is requiring us to account for the income we're going to lose on every adoption if we do fee-waived adoptions. How did you find the increased adoptions offset the lower fees? Or did you find that really happened?
I don't think I necessarily found out that happened. My dogs just broke back into the office. I'm sorry. Let me ask me the question again. They've disrupted my thinking.
Yeah, I think the question is, anxiety about losing that adoption revenue. Was it made up for in more fees from more adoptions, even if it had a lower fee, or did you make up that adoption revenue in a different way, or was it just decreased costs?
I think that some of both of that, but I would say the most amount of money that has been gained out of this procedure is that we haven't euthanized a healthy cat since 2008, and we haven't euthanized a treatable or manageable cat since 2012, okay? And when we can share that with the public, they're a lot more generous with us. So our donations have gone up. Our ability to get grants from foundations have gone up. It's the same back to if you make the public your partner, they will happily partner with you. And if you say, look, we can't do this, without you, our very most important partner, they're like, well, what can we do? Do you want me to, sure, I've been giving you $15 a year. If you want me to do that every month, I'll do that. Not everybody says that, but we're in a much better position to ask people to be more generous. And, clearly, as I stated in the one slide, I've given raises every single year, and we're holding, I think, a pretty good line on our budget. And we've hired more people, so clearly more money is coming in, or the board would never allow me to do that. And I also, just from my executive director point of view, I'm not sure that, and this is a whole other discussion, that boards should be making the executive director accountable for that kind of thing. I don't think that's their role in the organization, quite frankly. Their role is to, sort of set policy and oversee the executive director, and then they should stay out of the way and let the executive director fly.
Mm-hmm.
Just my opinion.
Barbara, did you find the same thing if your staff was trained to ask for that ask for that donation at adoption? Were you surprised to find how much people were willing to donate even though fees had been waived?
We've done that for several years, and it's actually quite a bit of money. And I'm going to tell you another big secret that I did. When we started all this business back in 2009, we were having trouble with our budget, and my board was you've got to cut this budget or you've got to create more income. So here is my biggest thing that I can give to anybody on money. I instituted a $30 administration fee on every adoption. So if you adopt from me, whether you pay an adoption fee or not, you have to pay an administration fee. And that's to store your records and, register your microchip and blah, 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 all the paperwork. And people don't even question it. So if I do $6,000 adoptions a year, that's $180,000. And there isn't any reason any one of you can't do that. It has nothing to do with the Million Cat Challenge. It has to do with just smart business. And I can't believe I thought that up and how wonderfully it works. But that's a lot of money, and nobody questions it.
Okay,
add an admin fee.
This is one of those times I'm just like, you're crazy. There's no way that works. So it
works.
You waive the adoption fee, but you charge a $30 administration fee. And people who wouldn't pay a $30 adoption fee will get a free cat with a $30 administration fee.
Well, we just put it on the cage card. Every cage card, it says what the adoption fee is and the $30 admin fee. Some people question it, some people don't, but nobody has ever refused to pay it. Every once in a while, somebody will say, well, I'm adopting 2 kitties. Can I pay 1 admin fee? And I think that I'd have to check because I don't pay that close attention. If it's 2 adoptions, we may only charge 1 admin fee. But I thought the biggest decision in that whole thing was, what should I make the admin fee? How much is too much where people are really going to balk? And how much is too little to really benefit my budget? And we came up with $30, and it's worked like a charm. This is not a rich community. Buffalo is not a rich community at all. And so people aren't used to throwing away money, but everybody's used to paying administration fees, right? You do it when you buy a ticket. Yeah.
Pretty genius.
So that, if nothing else helped you in this webinar, you can go back and tell your board, we're going to start charging admin fees.
So, Barbara, we have another question. The question is, what do your local vets think of your outpatient spay and neuter program? Any pushback, or are they happy that you're filling a hole?
No offense to the vets on this call, but the vets are never happy with me. So.
I'm a vet. I'm happy.
No, but I would say as a group of business people in this community,
other vets are happy too. You should know.
Yeah. I mean, I just it's been a few years since I concerned myself with whether they were happy or not. I tried for probably 18 years here to make the veterinarians happy, and when I really discovered that I was never going to make them happy, it just stopped being part of the equation. If I can do it and I can do it legally, I'm polite, I'm respectful, but I just can't spend any more time trying to make people happy who, are, I don't know, intimidated, worried. I don't know what their problem is. So I've never been able to figure that out, so I'm no real help on that question. But I can't say that they give us I haven't heard anything about that. The thing that they're upset with us right now about is that we're doing dentistries on a lot of animals because we adopt out so many older animals, So that seems to be the pushback this year. Next year it'll be something else.
We like your strategy. Get on board or don't. This ship is sailing.
Yeah. And as sort of low key as I can, I just can't engage in that battle any longer. It's a waste of time. So.
All right.
Well, I think unless somebody is typing furiously while we're wrapping up, I just want to remind everybody to sign up for the Million Cat Discussion Group if you haven't already. It is a Yahoo group, but you don't have to have a Yahoo account to participate. It's really quite painless to get on in there and ask questions, share ideas, share your brilliant equivalent of the mysterious $30 admin fee that nobody minds paying and brings in $180,000 a year, where you could hire a veterinarian of your very own who will love everything that you do. But also just to bring...
It's like magic money.
Magic money. Like, who doesn't love magic money?
Right.
Bring your other questions, too, about, just things that you're struggling with related to cats, and know that that's a lively, smart, creative group of leaders who are innovative and thoughtful, and it's really a great resource. So if you haven't joined that group, you could find it by just Googling Yahoo groups for Million Cat. I think we're the only ones and you can request to join, but probably the easiest way is just email us at info@millioncatchallenge.org. Send us your shelter affiliation, because this is a challenger-only group. If you somehow snuck in here and you're not a challenger, join up. and, you know, make sure your director of operations joins and your veterinary team is welcome to join. And we'll hear from you there. And just in closing, again, thank you so much for all of you for not only attending today, but for being part of the Million Cat Challenge, helping us reach a critical mass so that we can have a webinar like this and share the strategies that you all are developing. Thank you so much, Barbara Carr, for taking your time today, for putting this together, and just for being someone who has been willing to take leap after leap after leap and always question, can we risk doing it differently? Might that be better from what we're doing right now? I've learned so much from you today and also just over the years. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.